Alright, in this video we will continue evaluating trig functions at special reference angles. In the previous video we already did problems 1, 2, and 3 and we set everything up. So if you did not watch the video where we did number 1, 2, and 3, you need to stop this video and go back and watch that first. In a nutshell, we decided that we would memorize these three pink trig values and then use them to find everything else. For example, the cosine is just going to be the same as the sine for the pi over 4, and for the sine and cosine of pi over 3, they're just the reverse of the pi over 6. So the 1/2 comes down to be with the cosine, and the radical 3 over 2 becomes the answer for the sine. So anytime you're doing problems like this, if you have a quiz or a test or homework assignment, you should write down these 6 values at the top of your paper and then just refer back to them. Anyway, problem number 4. If we want to find the sine of 11 pi over 6, that's going to equal the sine of the reference angle pi over 6, give or take positive or negative. So maybe it'll stay positive, but maybe I need to make it a negative sine pi over 6. So let's figure that out right now before we go any further. We can figure that out by quickly drawing a unit circle. So there's pi. So pi over 6. So we need to divide this pi 6 ways. Okay, so let's see. If I split it in half, okay, and then if I split this into 3 equal parts, that should do it. So I'm going to do that. Split, split, and then split, split. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, imagine that these are all equal and perfect and beautiful. So these are pi over 6's. So we have 11 pi over 6. Let's see where that is. So this would be 1, 2 pi over 6, 3, 4, 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pi over 6 would be right here. Okay, so remember that the coordinates of this point are, whoops, I'm doing it backwards. The coordinates of any point on the unit circle are in the form cosine theta, comma, sine theta. So the cosine is the x value and sine is the y value. So are these positive or negative in this fourth quadrant? Well, the cosine is positive here because it's to the right, but the sine is negative because it is down below the x-axis. So we're dealing with the sine, so it'll be negative. So we need to stick a negative sign in front of that. Okay, now let's move forward. Now the sine of pi over 6 is one of the 3 values that we have memorized. So we know that the sine of pi over 6 is 1/2. We just memorized it. Okay, let me show you again. These are the 3 values that I want you to memorize. This one, the pink ones. Everything else we can get from that. So this is going to be negative 1/2. And that's it. Alright, let's move on to number 5. Cosine of 2 pi over 3. That's going to be the same thing as the cosine of the reference angle pi over 3, give or take a negative sign. So we need to figure out whether the cosine is negative in this quadrant. So we draw ourselves a quick unit circle. We're dealing with pi over 3's, so we'll split our pi up into 3 pieces. Alright, so 1, 2, 3. So now we have pi over 3's. So we're talking about 2 pi over 3. So 1 pi over 3, 2 pi over 3 would be right here. So the question is this negative or positive? Okay, remember every point is in the form cosine, comma, sine. In this quadrant, I'm saying quadrant, but I'm not really showing my x and y axis. Okay, there they are. So in this quadrant, cosine is negative because it's to the left. Sine is positive because it's up. But we're dealing with cosine, so it'll be negative. Okay, now, cosine pi over 3 is not one of the three values that we memorized, but we memorized the sine of pi over 6, and we learned that that'll be the same thing as the cosine of pi over 3 because these two switch. So cosine pi over 3 is 1/2. So we have negative 1/2 will be the answer. Okay, let's jump over and look at number 6. 13 pi over 6, tangent. Okay, tangent of 13 pi over 6 will be the same as the tangent of the reference angle pi over 6, give or take a negative sign. So let's figure out if it needs a negative sign by drawing a unit circle. And we want pi over 6's, so we will split this up. Alright, look at the upper half and split this up into 6 parts. So far I've split it into 2 parts. If I split this further, okay, as best I can, now I have 3 over here. I'll do the same again. Okay, now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. So these are all pi over 6's. I need 13 pi over 6's. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Alright, 13 pi over 6 will be right here. Now, let's talk coordinates. You know that every point is in the form cosine, comma, sine on the unit circle. So the cosine is the x value and the sine is the y value. So in the first quadrant, everything is positive. What we want, though, is the tangent of pi over 6. So, but we know that the tangent is equal to the sine over the cosine. Okay, so we have memorized the sine of pi over 6. The sine is 1/2. And we have memorized the cosine of pi over 6. That is radical 3 over 2. And like we said, both of these will remain positive in this quadrant, so we'll just leave them as positive and positive. So therefore, the tangent of pi over 6, remember these denominators will cancel out. So we will be left with 1 over radical 3. And that's number 6. Okay, tangent of negative 7 pi over 4 is going to be the same as the tangent of the reference angle pi over 4, give or take a negative sign. So we need to figure out if we need to put a negative sign on there. We can figure that out by drawing a quick sketch of the unit circle. And since we have pi over 4, let's divide this upper pi into 4 pieces. So I can do that in this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So these are all pi over 4's. Now, we need to go to negative 7 pi over 4. So starting from here, I'm going to go clockwise this time because it's negative. So negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, negative 7 pi over 4 lands us right here. Now remember about the every point on the unit circle the coordinates are cosine, comma, sine. But this is the first quadrant where the cosine and the sine are both positive. So when we go to talk about the tangent of pi over 4, we know that we're talking about sine over cosine. Tangent is always the sine over the cosine. Okay, but we have memorized the sine of pi over 4, which is 1 over radical 2. And we memorized that cosine is the same thing. So that's also 1 over radical 2. So of course anything divided by itself is 1. And like we said, the cosine and sine are both positive, so that's why I left these both positive, and it's a positive 1. So that's the answer to number 7. Okay, let's see if I can get in a couple more examples on this video. So let's see, number 8. Cosecant. Cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine function. So let's start off by finding the sine of 4 pi over 3, and then we'll just do the reciprocal. Well, the sine of 4 pi over 3 is going to be the same thing as the sine of the reference angle pi over 3, give or take a negative sign. To figure out if it's going to need a negative sign or not, let's draw a unit circle real quick and divide this upper pi into 3 pieces since it's pi over 3. So that would look something like this. Okay, see I've got my 3 pieces, so these are pi over 3's. Now I need to go to 4 pi over 3. So starting from here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pi over 3 is right here. Now, let's talk about the signs, positive and negative, in this third quadrant. Remember that coordinates are always in the form cosine, comma, sine. All right, the cosine is the x value and sine is the y value. So in this quadrant, the x values are negative because it's to the left, and the sine values are also negative because it's down below the x-axis. So both of these are going to be negative, including the sine. So we will put a negative on this because sine is negative in this quadrant. Alright, sine of pi over 3 is not one of the ones we memorized. Alright, we memorized that the, well, I'll just show you. We memorized these 3 pink facts. So we memorized the sine of pi over 6 and the cosine of pi over 6. But then the sine and cosine of pi over 3 are the same numbers, just backwards. So the sine of pi over 3 is radical 3 over 2. So that means it's going to be negative radical 3 over 2. But that is not the final answer. We want the cosecant. So that's going to be the reciprocal of this. So the cosecant of 4 pi over 3, okay, is going to be the reciprocal of this. So that's going to be negative 2 over radical 3. So that is going to be the answer. Alright, I'm going to squeeze one more example into this video. So, cotangent. Cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. So let's start by finding the tangent of negative 3 pi over 4. And then whatever we get, we'll just do the reciprocal of that. But the tangent of negative 3 pi over 4 is going to be the same thing as the tangent of the reference angle pi over 4. Give or take a negative sign. So to figure out if it's going to need a negative sign, we need to know what quadrant we're in. So let's just draw a quick unit circle. Sorry about my voice. So up here in the top is pi. To get pi over 4s, we need to divide this up 4 ways. So if I go like this, I've got 2 of them, and if I split those in half, then I've got my 4. So these are each pi over 4s now. We need negative 3 pi over 4. So starting from here, since it's negative, I need to go clockwise. So this will be negative 1, 2, 3. Negative 3 pi over 4 is right here. So we need to know, will tangent be positive or negative here? Now, we have to keep in mind to answer that question that every point is in the form cosine, comma, sine. And this is x and y. In this quadrant, both x and y are negative. So cosine and sine will both be negative. But we know that tangent is sine over cosine. Okay, so as we do this, we're going to get sine of pi over 4 is, alright, so these are both negative. So we're going to have negative and negative on this. Sine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over, is 1 over radical 2. We memorized that. That's one of the ones we just had to memorize. So this will be 1 over radical 2. And we know that cosine of pi over 4 is the same thing. So that's also negative 1 over radical 2. Anything divided by itself is 1. So this is just going to equal 1. Positive 1, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay, so this is all going to equal 1. Now, don't forget, we actually wanted the cotangent. But the cotangent is going to be the reciprocal of tangent. But the reciprocal of 1 is still 1. So the answer is going to be 1. Alright, that's long enough for one video. I still have 6 more examples to come. Alright, so if you're hungry for more examples to nail down this concept, go ahead and watch the next video. I'll see you there.